Okay, so just when you think that this week for the UFC can't get any crazier, it does. Kumaru Usman is stepping in for Paulo Costa to fight Khamzat Chimaev because Paulo Costa, of course, has pulled out of the fight. He pulls out of every hard fight that he gets. Also, in other news, there's a rumor going around that Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria is going to be set in Canada to replace Volkanovski versus Topuria for the interim featherweight belt. And then finally, the last thing I want to talk about is that the UFC has parted ways with USADA, and that's pretty crazy. Here soon, we're going to see Conor McGregor come back a light heavyweight, juice to the gills, and I'm not so excited about it, but we're going to talk about all this today. I want to start with the biggest news, and that is Kumaru Usman versus Khamzat Chimaev. This was a great fight. I think this is a better fight than the original, because I think Usman is just he's all around a much better fighter than Paulo Costa. Even this version of Usman, who I think is maybe a little bit deteriorated, a little bit beat up, banged up. He's not quite the same as he was, it seems, when he was on top. I think the knockout loss to Leon Edwards has had a bad effect on him. Of course it has, and he's had so many injuries in his career. He's getting older. I am going to be picking Khamzat Chimaev to win this fight, but I think it has the chance to be really competitive, and it's a good test for him because he did struggle quite a bit with Gilbert Burns, and Usman dispatched of Burns relatively easily after getting hurt early on. But like I said, I think Usman just isn't as good as he was, and the biggest thing to note here is that it's short notice for Kumaru Usman at middleweight, and Khamzat Chimaev has been training for middleweight for quite some time now. He's known for a long time now that he's moving to middleweight. He's been packing on size. He's posted it on his Instagram. He's looking big and strong. And Usman was a big welterweight, but he's going to be on the smaller side for middleweight, I think. He's a pretty thick dude, but he's not that tall for middleweight. He's going to look so small next to this version of Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat was enormous for welterweight, and he's still pretty big at middleweight. He's going to completely dwarf Usman. He's going to hit harder than Usman. Usman's been knocked out now. I can't imagine Usman has any luck taking down Khamzat. If anyone's going to be on the back foot worried about takedowns, it's going to be Usman. So he can't even strike with the threat of the takedown, and I don't think his striking is that much better than Khamzat's. He has good straight punches. His jab, his left straight, those are really good. That's pretty much it, though, and I think he's going to get pressured back this whole fight. He's going to try to get his jab off, but it's not going to stop Khamzat because Khamzat eats punches like it's nothing. And I think he's going to back up Usman, and I think he's going to beat him up on the feet. I don't even really see him going for the grappling too much in this fight. I feel like he's going to want to make a point. I think Usman has been rocked by Colby Covington, who has pillow hands. I'm a fan of Colby, but it's just true. He doesn't hit hard. If you're getting rocked by Colby Covington, you definitely don't want to get punched by Khamzat Chimaev at middleweight, okay? This is the guy that starched Gerald Meerschaert with one punch. I know it's not the most impressive thing ever to beat Gerald Meerschaert, but you have to hit hard to knock people unconscious, and Khamzat can do that. He also knocked Ikram Haliskarov unconscious. So yeah, this is a crazy turn of events. Honestly, the card is better now than it was before. Having Usman versus Chimaev on here instead of Chimaev versus Costa is incredible. I think it's a much better fight because Costa doesn't take his career seriously anymore. You can't trust him. So let's talk about Costa for a second. Costa sucks, okay? He's super funny on the internet, but he needs to be cut by the UFC because if you go through the last few years of his career, he pulled out of a fight against Whitaker for a hair transplant or something. He pulled out of a fight against Jared Cannonier. He's pulled out of a fight against Ikram Aliskarov. Now he's pulled out of this fight against Khamzat Chimaev. He pulls out of fights that he knows he can't win. And then the fights that he does go through with are Luke Rockhold, because Luke Rockhold's an old man that would get knocked out by a sneeze, and Apollo still couldn't finish him. And then he took on Marvin Vettori, but he intentionally weighed in 20 pounds heavy for that fight. And Marvin Vettori still beat him. So, yeah, this dude doesn't deserve to be in the UFC anymore. I don't know why they keep him around. He's a complete joke. But whatever. I'm glad that he pulled out because we get a better fight out of it, I think. even on short notice in a 3-rounder, I think Usman's going to put up a better fight than Paulo Costa. He might be easier to bully around than Costa, but I don't trust Paulo Costa to give it his full effort. I trust Paulo Costa to go in there and try to survive and not get too embarrassed, but I don't trust him to try to win. Usman's going to go in there and try to win. You got to give him at least that. He has that mindset that he wants to be the best. And so I think it's going to be a great fight, but I still see Khamzat Chimaev winning, and I see him winning by KO, TKO, to be honest. I think he's going to knock out Usman on the feet or get a standing TKO up against the fence. I think he's going to be marching Usman down the whole fight, swinging big bombs, because that's what he does. He's longer than Usman. He has a long reach. He hits really hard. He might threaten with the takedowns a few times in the fight and get Usman worried, because I don't think Usman can grapple with him. Usman's a good grappler. He might be hard to hold down. But another problem actually for Usman in this fight, so maybe I might actually pick Khamzat by submission, because Usman has zero jiu-jitsu. We don't see Usman get taken down often, but he has that wrestler's like American wrestling style where he gives up his back a lot when he goes down. If you look at like when Covington got a takedown on him in their fight, Covington was on his back very briefly. I know they didn't count it as a takedown, but it was totally a takedown, and Covington was on his back, but he was able to get up. Khamzat's a lot bigger than Covington, and Khamzat, that combat sambo style, they're very good at taking the back, holding it, and getting the submission. So I think if you're going to bet on this fight, Khamzat by rear naked choke is probably a pretty good bet. I don't know what the odds are on that, but that might be a good one to look into. If not that, then I'd say KO, TKO early in the fight. The other thing I want to talk about, so Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria for the interim featherweight title. Now, this rumor comes from Ariel Helwani, so you should take it with a grain of salt, but I do think it makes sense to have these two fight, because who else is there for Ilia to fight right now? Who else is there for Max to fight? He's beat everybody. And this is just if Volk can't make that turnaround after fighting Islam, which I highly doubt he comes out of the Islam fight unscathed, so there's a good chance he can't make that Canada card. And so Ilia versus Max Holloway is a great fight to make for the interim featherweight title. The weird thing about it is if Max wins, which I think he has a very good chance of doing, can he really fight Volk for a fourth time when he's lost 3? In the last one, he was brutally beaten. Like it wasn't a close fight. It was not a very competitive fight. There was one round in there that was kind of competitive, but it was pretty much a clean sweep, just complete shutout by Volkanovski. So for that reason, I'm kind of rooting for Ilia Topuria. I'm a big Max Holloway fan, but I want to see someone new fight Volk. I don't want to see Max fight Volk again. As a Max fan, it would kind of hurt to see him go in there and get beat up by Volkanovski again. I don't think Max is still improving that much. I think he's kind of plateaued. I think he's taken too much damage. It'll be hard for him to close that gap between him and Volkanovski right now. Max is younger than Volk, but he's got a lot of miles on him, if you know what I mean. He's just taken so much damage. He's been fighting from a very young age, and his style is just, it's not good for your brain, and it's not good for your longevity. It's kind of surprising he stayed on top as long as he has, to be honest, because his style requires him to get punched in the face 100+ times every single fight. I mean, even like the Calvin Kattar fight, I know he landed a record amount of strikes in that fight, but he still got hit like 130 times by Calvin Kattar, who is no joke with punching power. And Max has an incredible chin, but someday it's got to give out, okay? Like, Mark Hunt had an incredible chin, and it gave out eventually. Marvin Vettori has probably the best chin we've seen in modern MMA, but when he finally came up against somebody who hit really hard, like Jared Cannonier, he was running away. He ate punches from Whitaker. He was getting schooled, didn't care. But Jared Cannonier had him afraid, and Ilia Topuria might finally, be someone that can hurt Holloway. Holloway hasn't really been hurt bad since he moved up to lightweight and fought Dustin Poirier, so we know he can be wobbled a little. We know he can be hurt. Most of these featherweights can't do it, but Topuria he hits really hard. He has a lot of power, and he's really fast, and he's this new generation of fighter. There's nothing about his skill set that really makes me say that I could pick him, but it's just more of a gut feeling. I just feel like we're going to finally have this changing of the guard at featherweight. I think Max Holloway's finally going to lose a fight outside of Volkanovski. For some reason, it's just a gut feeling. I feel like it's time, and Ilia Topuria will probably edge out a decision over Max Holloway. I know people say every time Max fights, people are like, this is the guy that's going to chin him. This is the guy that's going to do it. If anybody could, it's Ilia Topuria, but I'm just not going to bank on Topuria getting a knockout against Holloway, of all people. But with his slick boxing and his frame, that short, stocky frame that Max seems to struggle with a bit in the Volk fights and in the Frankie Edgar fight, and he's got slick boxing. He's really fast. He has a lot of power. I think he has enough power to stop Max Holloway from really getting going. And so I'm going to go with Ilia Topuria winning like 48-47 in a pretty close fight, but a close but clear win is what I'm saying. 48-47, but clear, not controversial. So yeah, that's a great fight too, if it happens. Don't know if it will, but I hope it does. The last thing we're talking about is UFC is no longer partnered with USADA, so this is weird news. I honestly, I don't know a lot of details about this yet. I haven't really looked into it. I just saw the headline. I read a tiny bit of an article from, I think, MMA Junkie, so it's legit. I don't know what's going on. It sounds like they were going to come to a new contract, a new deal, and they were happy with it, but they still just called it off, which I'm wondering if this is specifically to get Conor back at a certain time. Maybe they just want to get Conor back as fast as possible, so they're just ending the whole USADA program, maybe just temporarily. Maybe they're partnering with some other drug testing association. I don't know. But if they don't, we might be going back to Pride, boys. We might be going back to Vitor Belfort, Alistair Overeem, and Brock Lesnar might come out of retirement and come mess up all these divisions. We're going to get Uberim back. We're going to see Volkanovski fighting at 205. Conor versus Chandler at heavyweight. It's super, super exciting news. I honestly don't know how much it's going to affect the sport that much, because we already know that a lot of people have kind of gotten past USADA. We know Brock Lesnar did. They chose not to release his test results till after his fight with Mark Hunt. There's a lot of fighters that aren't confirmed to be on steroids, but it's pretty obvious that they are. Kumaru Usman comes to mind. He's got injection marks all over his body, a bunch of back acne, super jacked, and was the best in his division for quite a long time. Like, that's a lot of just coincidences. And then if you watch MMA Guru's videos, the dude has like a criminal pharmacist as a brother, and also his brother Muhammad is like a super jacked heavyweight, and I think their dad was a criminal. There's a lot of weird coincidences that could lead to him being on steroids. And then of course there's Israel Adesanya growing one boob, which is just, it doesn't make any sense. If you guys watch More Plates, More Dates, he explains these things really well. It's pretty obvious that some of these fighters are on steroids and just don't get caught because USADA doesn't want to catch them, I believe. They just don't want to catch their big stars. So I don't know how much it's really going to matter. I guess if they don't get with some other drug testing association, then that's going to allow a lot of these smaller name fighters to get on steroids and not get caught. And I don't think that's good, because I know not all fighters will do it. I think it's bad for the sport. Hopefully they just get another organization to do it for them, another drug testing organization. But who knows? It could be fun to have like a Pride era thing going on again, where everybody's just juiced to the gills. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you didn't, then hit the dislike button. If you could subscribe, that would be cool. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Goodbye.